to start off, I'm gonna kind of kick it off a little bit, and I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about me and my background and my story. I'm gonna do that just so that we can kind of have some context to the conversation and the point where I'm gonna start at, right? So I was born in Michigan. I was born into a boxing family. I was born into a pretty famous boxing family, in fact. I think we're on 4 generations of fighting in this family. My mom thought it was very important to get me away. My mom moved me away when I was about 2 or 3. She kind of fled in the night kind of situation and, you know, took me to the other side of town. I ended up growing up in California, spent most of my time in Vegas. The reason she did that was, you know, it's a violent family, right? Boxing, my mom was watching my cousins go to the gym at 4 and 5 years old and get punched on, and my mom was like, no, not my son, right? So my mom was a business person. She was always very savvy. I grew up around her. I grew up, you know, the oldest in the house, so I had a lot of responsibility, and she dragged me along. She dragged me along to all her meetings. She dragged me along to everything. I became her partner, right? When she didn't have time to do something, it was on me to do it, right? She used to leave a to-do list. I was always in trouble, so I was always kicked out of school for something. And her thing would be like, you don't get to just sit around here, right? So you're gonna clean this house up, right? You're gonna cook for your sisters, right? And I need these chores taken care of. And a lot of times those chores were, you know, contact the electric department, right? I need you to call the water place, right? I need the rent paid. Walk on up there to the store and get this money order for me and have these things done, right? And those things kind of transformed me into the person that I am. It took me years to kind of understand how much value she gave me, right? I spent the better part of my life, my young life, my teenage life, and my young adult life really destroying everything around me, right? I did my best to destroy everything, even though I didn't think that's what I was doing, right? They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I'm one of those people, right? I destroyed a lot. And what happens with us as black men is we go on a journey, right? We start off lost and confused in so many different ways, right? And you're trying to find your place in this society. You're trying to find your manhood. And you go through the bumps and bruises of life, and then you wake up one day and you figure it out and you say, you know what, I got this, right? I'm a man now, right? I got this figured out, and I know what my responsibilities are. But you have to turn around and you have to take a look back at all the collateral damage it took for you to get to that path of manhood. And then now you have to be faced with redemption and legacy, right? Now you have to think about what's next for me, right? So for me, I've always been a serial entrepreneur. I've always been about business. I've always been about making money. I've always been around people who enjoyed making money and things like that. The path that I took in life took me to jail. It took me to prison. And I went there for a really, really long time. When I was there, my mindset changed a lot, right? I think a lot of it really had to do with age, right? A lot of it really had to do with age, more than anything, I think. I think people are who they are innately, but that doesn't mean that you have to indulge in your negatives, right? You can be who you are, right, and strive for greatness. And that's what I attempted to do, right? So when I was down, I did a lot of study. I did a lot of educating myself and preparing myself to jump into the entrepreneurial market, because I knew I was not going to come out here and try to jump into a job market. I knew I didn't want to play that game. I also knew I was savvy, right? I had been successful at everything I had attempted to do. It just so happened that those things were negative things, right? So you get what you put out. There's no way to have foot in, there's no way to try to get a positive back out of doing something negative, right? There's no way possible. And all of that forms my business philosophy today, which is I want to make as much money as possible like everybody else. I want to be wealthy, I want to get rich, I want to build a huge empire. I don't want to do it robbing old ladies, right? I don't want to do it destroying the community around me. I don't want to do it off the backs of other people, right? And these are all lessons learned in the street about karma. These are all lessons learned about what's right and what's wrong and sustainable, right? So now I find myself in an industry where we're leading the industry and building a sustainable business model. And how we're building that sustainable business model is taking all these thoughts and putting them into the planning and into the actionable items that we take on here at this company, right? I'm in a roofing company. I run one of the larger roofing companies here in the city. We've been growing over the last 2 years. We've been growing very, very strong. I'm very proud of everything that we've done. But a lot of that growth has come from that business model going back to the roots of the things that we learned, right? The lessons, the hard knocks that we took. So it's important to me to talk to as many people as possible about roofing, especially as many black people as possible. There's not a lot of black people out there that know that you can make $100,000 plus a year in a roofing industry with no GED, right? Same thing with the solar industry. It's my job to go out and talk to as many bilingual Hispanics as possible, right? I'm in an industry, a roofing industry, right, where Hispanics are seen as the labor, right? But there's so much more than that. And because we come from the same communities, we know how entrepreneurial minded, right, these people are, right? Same as us. Women. This is an industry where you don't see a lot of women salespeople. It's important to me to talk to and recruit as many women as possible. It's an underutilized resource in the sales market, right? Underutilized resource in the labor market, period, is women and what they bring to the table, right? These are all philosophies that are embedded in this company, and now we're seeing the success of this company because of these philosophies. We're consulting with the city of Denver on climate change, the Green Roof Initiative, and waste. Why are we doing that? Because we're in a business that generates a ton of cash flow, but also leaves waste behind, right? And this is a waste that can't be buried. We're talking about asphalt shingles. Only thing you can do is recycle it and put it in the street, right? You can't bury it. It's not going away anywhere. I don't want to make a bunch of money and destroy everything around me. If you're going to do that, you might as well go back to selling dope, right? You might as well go back to those negative things. It's the same thing. These corporations have been getting away with making billions and billions of dollars off of everybody's back and destroying things, right? Now, the reason that this segment is called Boss Talk is because what we're going to get into today is actionable items, right? We're going to get into us looking at these problems, right? Us being a part of these problems, us having to grow around these problems, right? And all we do is sit around and talk about it, or we get up and start changing some stuff on our own. And that's why this is called Boss Talk. We're going to talk about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I told you a little bit about my journey just so that I could put into context that this has not been an easy road for me. And I'm sure it's not been an easy road for anybody else in this building that are doing things or even thinking about doing things, right? We all come from a rough road. My brother Chris, same thing, right? We come from it, right? So that's why I like to talk, to my people, and that's why I like to talk like this, because you get these conservative pundits, they go on TV and they say, well, just dust yourself off and figure it out, right? And they'll tell you that over and over again, and I believe that. The only difference is the person that's telling me that has had a leg up the whole entire time where you're telling me to just get up and do it, right? So I want to say get up and do it too, but I want to say get up and do it from a perspective of we're all from the same place, right? So some of the things that it takes, right, in order to start your business, in order to launch your business and be successful, most importantly is a mind state change. For me, that mind state change happened in prison, right? Because in prison it's very easy to just sit there and be bitter. I'm mad, he told on me. I'm mad, this happened. I'm angry about this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of reasons to sit around and do that, right? But at some point, you have to accept responsibility for the choices that you made every single step of the way, even if that choice was trusting the wrong person who allowed you to get told on, right? Oftentimes that choice is traced all the way back to your original choice to decide to do or get into whatever it is you decided to take part in, right? If you can accept that now, right? Now you can start to move past that. And now you don't have to come out the bitter, angry guy, mad at everybody, right? You didn't write me. I ain't get a letter from you. Right? The faster you learn that it's on you, the faster you can get up and make the changes in your life that need to be made, right? And once again, I'm speaking from the perspective of coming from y'all, coming from us, right? Coming from the community that we come from, with the experiences that we've had to experience that everybody hasn't had to experience. There are people walking around in society right now who've never seen somebody get punched in the mouth before. And when they see that, it's traumatizing. It was horrible. And then there are those of us that have witnessed so much of that that's so normal And innately, there's something wrong with that. But it is the way it is. We can't cry over the spilled milk. All we could do is grab a hold of the steering wheel and change what's in front of us. And that's the first mind state change. There's no rescue party coming. Nobody cares about your situation, right? Just a harsh reality. Nobody cares. When you're in business with somebody and you're supposed to do this, that, and the other, and that doesn't happen, nobody cared that you had a flat tire. Nobody cared that somebody got sick. Nobody even, there might be genuine, legitimate circumstances around why you couldn't execute your portion of the plan, right? But in the real world, nobody cares. It's on you to figure that out. And the faster we get to that state is the faster that we can begin to make real executive changes and decisions in our lives, right? In our community, we like to, I'm a king, I'm a boss. These are catchphrases. We call that to each other, hey, what's up, king? I see you, right? We do come from that. But everybody wasn't the king, right? And the king is no greater than anyone else. The king is a servant to the people around him. And that's what you are as the founder or the CEO, right? As the principal of the business that you start. Your job is to sacrifice for the benefit of everyone else around you. Leadership is not about telling people what to do. It's about sacrificing for them and making the best decisions for them. It's also about the person that is built to carry the weight of that, right? We don't get to have it both ways. Oh, I'm a boss. I'm a boss. And then you jump on your social media with all these nobody supports me posts. Nobody looks out for me. Nobody support. Ain't nobody sharing my stuff, and I share all y'all stuff. And ain't nobody, if people would just support their friends. Listen, man, we all know that, right? We passed that, right? I'm not gonna continue to try to make customers out of the people that show me they not my customers. I'm gonna mess with the people that's supporting me. I'm gonna go study that data. I'm gonna see why are they supporting me, right? This is the tough skin. These are the executive decisions that need to be made when we're talking about we want to take other people's lives and put them in our hand. You don't get to have it both ways. Sleepless nights. Everybody got paid but me. Our top 4 sales guys in our company have made more money than the 2 founders as well as me and my business partner since we've been a part of this company, period, last 2 years. We have 4 sales guys that have made more money than all of us. But those 4 sales guys have also kept this company afloat. And we're a viable company because of the efforts of these guys as well. They should be fully compensated, right? So I don't get to pull up in the Porsche today, but this company is worth millions of dollars now. Millions now. And we are an integral part of building it there. So strategically, we have to think about all of these things, right? We have to move with a real intention in everything that we're doing. We have to come with an understanding that there's no rescue parties, there's no help, it's on us. We have to change what's in front of us. If there's not enough of us being hired, let's continue to build platforms and hire us, right? I'm the only black in roofing. It's my job to go out there and create the programs to get these guys involved in this. It's my job to go connect with these entrepreneurship programs. It's my job to come and talk to rooms like this so we can talk about this industry and opportunities that are in this industry that people may not know about, right? We change what's in front of us. We handle our business, no matter what. And that's just a large part of it, as far as I'm concerned. Chris, I don't know where you wanna jump in at.
You want me to follow that?
Yeah,
So let me just say this. So my name is Chris Cleveland. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. People here, Connecticut, one of the richest states in the country, 3 of the poorest cities in the country. Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven. You know New Haven for Yale. What you don't know is similar to other prestigious colleges, New Haven is in the hood. It's just the way it goes, right? So I grew up in this state and was always told, like, you get the best of the best. This is what you're doing. But I lived in one of the biggest housing projects in the state of Connecticut. I saw people shooting up in the hallway, walking down at a certain age. I saw people's bodies in the streets. I mean, I'm saying this all to you, but I was desensitized. To me, this was every day. I grew up in a family full of drug dealers, my mom being one of them. And it was always taught to me, like, this is how you get $1. This is how you move ahead. But they were also receiving government assistance. Like, do you see a problem with that? Like, that's a huge problem. To me, I was always that one kid that was like, I want to do this, but I want to do it differently. How do I push myself to do it differently? Graduated college. Graduated high school. Throughout that time, I was being, recruited, by big time colleges to play football and do all these other things, but there was still something missing. You know what was missing for me? Damn, why am I not selling drugs? Like, this is what I need to do. Like, my family's doing it. Why am I not doing this? Like, this is what pushed everybody in my family forward. Why am I not doing this? Top, gang members and all these other things. Why am I not a part of this? Why am I doing something different? Am I going off road? Am I going off beat? What am I doing? My senior year, got into a bunch of trouble for doing what, guys? Selling drugs. I thought I had to be a part of the family tradition. This is the business that we're in, right? Wrong. I got in trouble my senior year. All these colleges that I thought I was going to get accepted to, I didn't. And I said, all right, there has to be a mindset shift, similar to what Josh said. What's the mindset shift? What is that? Like, what's that light bulb? Why does it go off? How does it go off? As an entrepreneur now, I know. But there's this key word that I kept hearing. But I heard it at basketball practice. Pivot. 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 Why are you telling me to pivot? What does that mean? To me, what does that look like? And it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur where I started to understand, you know what? All right, I'm going to get into this college program. It's a summer program. I have to give up my summer from the block where you're going to make the most money. This is what I have to give up in order to follow my dreams, in order to do what I wanted to do. So eventually what I ended up doing is going to this summer program, getting into college. But what that in turn did, and I hate it when people say, oh, so you went to college just to get this degree. No, I went to college to be around people that don't look like me. People who come from different environments, different aspects, where they're not desensitized to certain things and see the way that they thought. So I always valued social equity. And we have to start understanding as entrepreneurs how valuable social equity is. Partnership, understanding what friendships can get you. Yeah, I was just this half Puerto Rican, half black kid from Hartford, Connecticut. I got up to school and it was just like, wow, code switching really does work. You know what I mean? Why do all these white kids want to be around me? What do I bring to them that they don't already have? They get to go home and go live in these mansions and live in these big houses. But then I also started to realize, not all white people are rich. I had friends whose fathers were plumbers and electricians and things of that nature. And to me, that opened up an entirely different mindset of what entrepreneurship was. You didn't have to be a doctor or a lawyer. You didn't have to do all these other things. There were trades. There were all these other things that people kind of showed me along the way. The reason why I brought up pivoting is because I've worked from McDonald's to CVS to Walgreens to whatever you can do, I've done it. But I always pivoted. All right, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. This doesn't work for me. Working for someone else doesn't work for me. If you guys are all bosses, if you guys have tried your hand at an entrepreneurial endeavor, you understand how hard it is. It's not easy. Similar to what Josh said, there's sleepless nights. But then there's also nights where you get that phone call. Hey, Chris, I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, Chris, I don't understand why this customer doesn't want to take this job, or why this customer doesn't want me to do this. And then there becomes an explanation towards that. Me being able to explain that gave me the understanding of, damn, maybe I am a boss. But how do I structure this? How do I move forward to give people advice on business when I don't know everything? What do I have to do? I have to go read books. I have to go do all these, self-help books and go to these meetings and understand what real bosses do, how they think, and move forward. Sometimes it takes for us to learn as entrepreneurs in order for us to provide some type of education to somebody else, right? So in that pivot and in my story, what I like to tell people is where I am today is not where I was before, but it took a lot of learning and understanding. And sometimes those scrapes, I tell people straight up, The best place that I like to be is on my back because it only lets me look up. And I know I can climb forward. I know I can get up. And that's the best part of it. Being able to get up and work towards something. That end goal should always be helping somebody else get to where you are. And it's similar to what Josh said. Like when he asked me to be a part of this, it was just more in the sense of I admire what he's doing after his story, and he admires what I'm doing after my story. And everybody has a story. That's the most important part. When you look at the person on the other side of the table, they have a story. And it might not be an entrepreneurial story, right? But it's just a story, and that's something that you can build off of. So learning how to pivot and understanding what pivoting is, it's just that. It's looking at your situation not for what it is, but for what it can be. Because that job at McDonald's taught me so many skills that I used on my next endeavor. And then on my next endeavor. And I always pivoted to move forward. And sometimes it was to move in stagnation, right? It was to be in the same place at a higher, maybe just a manager. You know, I was a manager at CVS. How would I know how to manage people if McDonald's didn't show me something? So there's always something that you can learn in the position that you're in to move forward. So whatever endeavor that you're into right now, understand it, know it, but it's always to push forward into the next phase.
That brings us into the entrepreneurial mindset of launching and starting off, right? How do we start off? That brings us right there to that space, right? Oftentimes what we end up doing is you see people, because everybody wants to do this, right? You talk to anybody, they have a dream, right? They have an ideal, they have some kind of goal. Almost anybody, right? There's people that don't, but most of the time someone has somewhat of an ideal of I want to be in real estate, right? And what they'll do is when I learn real estate, when the time is right, I'm gonna do this. They'll spend $500 on a seminar. They'll watch all the YouTube videos. They'll spend months, years trying to learn this, right? And never actually pull the trigger on anything. Why? Because life gets in the way. I come from entertainment, right? I'm sure it's a bunch of us in here. I'm sure we all have somebody who does, right? You see that a lot with guys who do music. It's like, yeah, man, as soon as life got in the way, but as soon as I get everything settled out, I'm gonna get back in the studio and I'm gonna drop this album. You know what I mean? And it never quite happens because life is always in the way. Right? It's never gonna be a time in your life where you say everything lined up. Just doesn't happen most of the time, right? So what's gonna end up having to happen is at some point you're gonna have to make a decision. This is what I want to do. You're gonna have to pull that trigger and jump off that cliff. And I've said that many times to many people. Like my business model in a lot of ways is to jump off the cliff. It has hurt me a ton of times. More than I can count, right? But it also is my most valuable learning tool. I will jump off the cliff, break every bone in my body, but look up and say, oh shit, maybe if I would have tucked and rolled, this might have been successful, right? And now I just saved myself $60,000 in 4 years worth of college in an industry that I can go compete in with guys who are in debt trying to compete with me in now, right? Not to shit on college, right? But I love college,
and it's also the understanding, right, that even when you are in the water, you know, sometimes treading water could hurt you. You know what I mean? Sometimes putting your all into one idea that's what we do as a black community, right? We invest, and we keep going into a business that we know ain't shit. Like, let's be honest about it. Like we've all done it. I've done it. I've lost a lot of money continuing to invest in a dud.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to understand, all right, maybe I can move on to something different. Maybe I can try something different off of that main idea, right? And then being involved in those businesses, that it doesn't mean you can't go back to it. It doesn't mean, but you have to understand like when enough is enough. How many of you guys have been in a business or worked for somebody that you're just like, dude, this ain't it? First of all, your sandwiches suck. The customers barely come in. You know what I mean? Like, it's a dirty establishment, but they keep putting money into it. They keep on doing it. And it's just like, don't you wish you had enough gusto to just be like, dog, this ain't it? We need to move forward. We need to go and do something else. Let's go get a food truck. Why do we have to keep spending money on this rent? Like, you have to know when enough is enough. So similar to what Josh was saying, like, yeah, you know, you can go into these ideas and these businesses, but look at it from a perspective of have these goals, short-term goals. They're the best. Having those 3 to 6 month goals instead of saying in 3 years, this is where I'm going to be. In 4 or 5 years, this is where I'm going to be. How about you set those attainable goals within 3 to 6 months and say, yeah, it might not be here yet, but let's and give yourselves applause for those baby wins in those areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we got about 15 minutes left, I believe, in this section. We got Michael Crossland here. Michael Crossland is one of our partners. He was a part of this segment as well. He's a serial entrepreneur. He owns several businesses. He's been very successful. He's a good friend, and he has a lot of valuable insight and information on, you know, kind of just jumping out there and doing it. In fact, he's one of my favorite jump out there and do it guys.
He is the jump out.
He is that guy. You know, he'll jump out and get it going, and then we like, ball's rolling, let's jump on it, right? So I felt like he would add some value to the room. So Mike, can you introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about yourself, what you do, maybe some words of wisdom that you have as far as like the entrepreneurship journey and kind of just accepting responsibility for self, and you know it's on you to make it happen. And then we'll try to save a little bit of time for some interaction with everybody, and you know, because there's people in here that I know and people I just met recently, and then people I don't know yet as well. So.
Okay. My name is Michael Crossland. I'm the COO of CFW Staffing. We're a diversity, equity, and inclusion focused staffing, training, and consulting firm. I'm also the co-owner of CFW Security, recently launched. I'm the vice president of sales for artistic apparel, graphics, and signs, and I own a couple e-commerce stores and Amazon stores and wholesale kind of stuff. So just a bunch of stuff. Everything that I thought I could make money in, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I think just to be short and to the point, do what you do well and hire out the rest. I don't schedule well. Like, if y'all look at my calendar, it's the craziest, weirdest thing in the world. I double book. I was triple booked today. Somehow, I don't know, I had to move some stuff around somehow. But honestly, yeah, just hire out what you don't do well. Funny story, where we are, Cross Purpose is a client of ours, right? And so we had to hire somebody for them, and they wanted they wanted me to go build somebody, I think, because this person didn't exist, so they wanted us to hire. But no, it wasn't that difficult. But there were a lot of aspects of that job that I didn't do and I couldn't do, and I didn't know when I got the contract that I wasn't gonna be able to do it. I thought for sure, like, you know, this is what I do. I can go find the right person, the right talent for this role. And when I dug into it, it was increasingly difficult. So I went back to the drawing board. You know, I came back to the client, you know, hey, can you give me a little bit more insight on the role? Can you let me know, you know, do we have to have this? Is this a must-have? Is this a could-have? You know, so don't be afraid to go back to the drawing board and figure out the best solution to whatever problems you have.
No,
that's that pivot.
That's the pivot. I mean, I also think in what Mike is saying, as far as just being entrepreneurs, understand what outsourcing is, because that's exactly what it is. Outsourcing what you just don't do well. And it's okay. It's okay to outsource. You giving someone else a piece of what your job or your responsibility is, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you a weaker individual. It actually makes you a boss. It actually puts you in a better understanding of self. Like, all right, well, I know I don't write great emails. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna send it to 2 or 3 people to look at prior, so that I know what I'm saying is on brand, one, and I sound right. And that's really what it is. Like, understanding that outsourcing can be a friend to you. And you don't have to go and hire someone. There's virtual assistants. There's so many other, you know, dynamics that you can use that actually make you a better boss, that actually puts you in a position where people understand and respect you for who you are, because you know certain characteristics or certain things about yourself just isn't necessarily your strong suit, and it's okay to do that. I mean, that's something that I've always looked at and said, like, that's super important.
Heck yeah. So yeah, y'all got anything for us while we get a little interaction going to close this out?
I have a question. So you mentioned, jumping off of the cliff and taking chances. And I'm the type of person that gets afraid easily. I don't want to go bankrupt doing something. So, what advice could you give for someone who wants to be entrepreneurial minded without the risk that comes with that?
I went bankrupt 3 times. Broke, in debt 3 times. So, so I have a tattoo and it says, "Thou shalt not fail," even though I fall all the time. And so, got broke. I owed like $1 million to investors. You know what I'm saying? Like, was scared to death. Didn't know what I was gonna do, but I was still alive. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's like, that's my motto. He like jump off the cliff. Thing. My motto is like, but did you die though? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
same thought.
I'm gonna try because I'm gonna try and I'm gonna try again.
I told you, I started off with telling you guys a little bit about my life, and that gets uncomfortable in certain scenarios. I'm for the most part comfortable, but in certain scenarios it gets a little uncomfortable. I did that today because it adds context, once again, to the conversation, to my perspective, right? So for me, my entire life has been a risk, right? I've been risking since day one. So when we start talking about business and we start talking about financial risk, I look at it way differently, right? I look at it like, okay, so I could go bankrupt. They not gonna come kill me. Like, I mean, I'm gonna be okay. Like, I know that part, right? So it makes that fear a little bit different for me personally. And also what I believe it makes me more dangerous in the business arena, because what happens is my risk assessment is way further along than a lot of my counterparts. A lot of my counterparts have so much to lose because they've never lost before. Mm-hmm. I done slept in the car before, right? I also done got myself to a mansion before. So in my mind, I'm always gonna bounce back. It's always gonna be okay. Sometimes you have to bet on you, but with that being said, you also need to be practical in those jumps, right? I have a business partner, he's a white guy who I love dearly. He is the exact same as me, right? And we're business partners. So he calls me up, he's like, "Hey, I was looking at the account, I'm about to just dump it all in cryptocurrency." And I'm like, "Which one?" He's like, "This one I've been looking at. What does it look like? We can make it work." Well, let's try it, right? So we have another partner who finances us, who is the complete opposite. And it's a necessity to have that voice in the room. It is a necessity, because we will jump off the cliff every single time, and we would have killed this business 3 or 4 times by now already, right? So your thought process plays a role, right? And that might be the role that you're playing. You might need a partner who's a little bit more risk assertive, right? And you guys can balance each other out, in other ways as well.
What do you want to do?
Well, I want to start a co-op. I've been going around teaching about cooperatives and how they're a great business model because they mitigate that risk, or they share that risk anyways. And so I want to set up a co-op that builds other co-ops. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how to incorporate it. I don't know if I want to make it a 501c3 and just continue to educate community and incubate other types of businesses under that cooperative model, or if I want it to literally be like an LLC but set up as a cooperative.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, and this is just, us just being transparent and honest in the room, right? If you do all of your homework, if you get all of the information that you feel like you need, what risk is there to take? Because you've already taught yourself. Therein lies the confidence, right? Get everything done, cross your T's, dot your I's, and then when you go out there, you can't say, "I didn't lift up every rock. I didn't check every place." But I will say, before you get into that arena and what you want to do, make sure you do all your homework first.
Yeah.
Do your homework, because when you do your homework and you start to see what the competition looks like, you start to look at other things, then you can say, "I jumped into this."
Jumping off the cliff don't mean being stupid.
It doesn't at all.
Right? Jumping off the cliff does not mean being stupid. It does not mean being blind. It
Absolutely.
does not mean not peering around the corner, right?
Dip
It
your
means
foot into that water.
assessing the risk and saying to yourself, can I do this? And if I can do this, am I gonna go ahead and jump? That also brings us back to that pivot though, right? Some of those things that you have concerns with are not even a concern today, right? You haven't been able to make a step forward in this decision because you're talking about, am I gonna be a 501c? Am I gonna be an LLC? Listen, how about you just start it?
Yeah.
How about you start it as an LLC, right? You can always become a 501c and vice versa, right? Those are decisions that you can always pivot and change as you get into moving around and you saying, okay, this isn't working. I might need to adjust, right? And that's part of it. Your risk assessment is gonna be one of the things that probably will protect you, right? The same way that my kind of risk aggression has helped me, right? But I talk a lot about jumping off the cliff and risk. I have a partner in almost everything I'm involved in. So I believe in sharing risk. I believe in mitigating risk. I believe in taking calculated risk, right? Absolutely. I have a partner in almost every single venture I'm involved in. And that is the way I like to move. I know that I will risk assess, blow the whole thing up. I know that. I need a hedge. I need someone next to me to say, hey, no, let's not do it this way, right?
Let's not do it.
So
That's really why I had a question.
I was just gonna suggest so if you're starting a business that you want to do but you don't have a lot of expertise in, because it sounds like you have a lot of expertise in that business, because you've been teaching about it and stuff like that. It gets to get a consultant. So I don't think we practice that a lot in the community. So when I started the newspaper 5 Points Atlas, I literally hired the person who ran the newspaper the neighborhood over and gave him $5,000 to literally set everything up for me. So where do I print? How do who's my designer? Who's all that stuff? How do I distribute? I actually got all those things set up and answered all those questions. So then it was just, now I need to go find the capital to actually do it and then just start the content, start that process. Yep. So I didn't know anything about necessarily newspaper, and most people my age were laughing at me like, "Oh, you're gonna start a newspaper? It's 2020."
It's the same. Like, I bought a moving company 3 weeks ago. All I did was moving during the summers at home. I didn't know what it took to run a moving company. I didn't know what type of insurances the truck needed. I was like, man, let's put some people up in there and then we're gonna move these people. I had no idea. But then what I started to understand is that if you don't do the homework, you're literally just driving on a fire. That's all you're doing, and eventually you're gonna get burned. And that's just the way it works. I mean, you just have to do the homework, and that's just I hate to say it that way, but it's like that's what entrepreneurship is. It's taking that calculated risk, but the key word is calculated. Take the calculated risk. But at the same time, are you interested in this? Are you slightly interested in this? All right, come on, how do we work together? And then you don't know. You have no idea that the person that you start to ask for help, they have 7 other people that they've already talked to that would love to be a part of what you want to be a part of as well. You'd be surprised what social capital does for you.
Challenges as well, right? Challenges in business are opportunities, right? We don't always see them like that. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's a challenge in front of your face and it's like, this is a crisis, not even a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. But in real life, right, these are always opportunities. Whenever there's a challenge, it's a learning opportunity from there. Challenges are worth so much more money than any other learning experience. Because you go through it, you learn a lesson from it, and then you move on, right? But the next go round, you have an idea of what's around that corner. Absolutely. And that matters a lot. That matters a lot.
We do a lot in our community. What do we talk about? Taking L's, right? I ain't trying to take this L. I don't want to take this L. But I just little by little started understanding and learning that L does not mean loss. It literally is lesson. Mm-hmm. And if you don't look at it that way, you'll never survive as an entrepreneur. It just doesn't work. Because you start looking at all these L's that literally pile up way more than your W's.
Yeah.
So you just have to start looking at them as lessons. I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm not going to do this again.
My first my first venture into roofing through a lead generation company. That's how I got into roofing. I started a lead gen company, and that was my in through the door. My first one, I lost around maybe $35,000 or so in a bad deal, right? Just in a bad deal. But then I went into my second deal, and I was like, I can structure this better because I know how this contract should go. I went into my second deal, I made way more money than I did in my first deal. It only lasted a short period of time. Right around the time COVID was about to hit, company was unstable, things got shook up, budgets got cut, and I got screwed again and lost a bunch of money again. I was back at square one again. But I knew I really had it that time. I did. I knew I really had it that time because I thought I had it the first time I got screwed and I went and did the second deal, right? Now, the next deal was completely different because now I'm thinking about multiple angles. Now I'm thinking about backstops. Now I'm thinking about support systems. Now I'm thinking about hedges, and I'm thinking about a bunch of things that I never thought about the first 2 rounds. So although I lost a lot of money, maybe around 80 grand, maybe close to 90 grand in total between those 2 deals. I lost a ton of money on those, but I've made more money since then off of the knowledge of those L's. And that's a true story. I learned a lot from those losses. Like low key, when I think about it now, I don't even get mad about the money part no more.
You stopped getting mad.
I stopped getting mad about it a long time ago.
And this, you stopped getting mad about money.
I thank those guys. And by the way, the 2 companies that burned me were huge companies. Both of those companies are in a closet right now. Both of those companies have downsized into little bitty small offices with 2 salespeople and an office person. All those trucks, all those offices, all that stuff is closed down. And now the company that I'm with now is rolling. We're rolling right past all those guys.
That's the way it works. Any other questions? I think we're about like down to 2 minutes, but any other questions?
My man in the red shirt.
I know you got a question. You rubbing your head for it.
Nah, I really didn't have a question, but I do agree and respect everything you say. I'm like in the early stages. I officially started my company last year, and like right now I have like my second full-time client, and I've been getting like a lot of steady work. And next week I'll be I'm have a culinary company. So basically I specialize in intimate private dining, and I'm getting ready to launch my first product line.
You come to the house and do the.
Come to your house, come to your office. I have a spot that you can come to as well. Bat mitzvah, whatever. Like I said, I'm getting ready to introduce my first product line this week, which is a juice subscription, fresh juices, and then hopefully I'm planning by January to start with the smoothies and shots and stuff like that as well.
Cold pressed juice?
Cold pressed juice.
That's all natural, everything?
All natural, no sugars, no additives.
I need your number, bro.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These are the types of places, and I will tell people, the best thing that I've ever done is going to networking events that I had absolutely no idea who was going to be there. None.
Yeah, I didn't know what this event was.
And that's what I'm saying.
I just seen on Facebook
you go on, you go on Eventbrite, you just put in social networking. You just put in networking opportunities into Eventbrite, and you'd be surprised at how many just pop up. I've been to networking events where it's all Asian people, and I'm like, what am I doing here? But then you start to talk to people, and everybody's on the same thing. You have to make sure that you're going into every situation yourself and representing yourself and representing your brand and everything that you want.
Real quick, I met every single one of these guys that I know in this room at a networking event. Quan put on Metro Deep. That's how I met Benzel. That's how I met Jice. Jice introduced me to... I met Chris at Chris's networking event. And I didn't like him when I first met him.
I didn't like him.
So yeah, every person in this room I met at a networking event, and I've gotten clients. I met.
But that goes.
We got multiple companies together. We done business together. And these are all from networking events. Yeah.
And it's basically understanding, like Josh was saying, understanding, and what Mike said as well, understanding what you don't do well, and partner with people who do them a lot better than you. There's certain things that I call Mike about at 2, 3 in the morning. Like, Mike, I'm struggling with this. And you know what he does? He's not, I'm asleep, man. Call me in the morning. I got you. Let me take care of that. You worry about this. And then that same night, 15 minutes later, I'm getting a phone call from Josh. Like, yo, I'm struggling with this. How do I do this? And
Yeah.
that's the way we keep everything in alignment. Just understanding and knowing that the people around you can help you as much as you allow them to help.
That's the truth. What he's just said is the truth. I bounce ideals off of both of these two. I bounce decisions, I bounce concerns and things like that. I didn't call Mike before and said, was I in the wrong for this? Was I out of pocket? Because I'll get out of line. I already know I will, right? You know what I mean? So in my mind, I might have been completely in the right about a situation that I wasn't completely in the right about, and I might need that outside perspective, right? Same thing with Chris. I talk to Chris for other reasons, different reasons. I talk to Chris for a lot of different reasons. I talk to Chris because sometimes I'm ready to go. This is so great, and I need that. Did you think about this? No, not really, right?
Hey, y'all
So-
wanna know something? They went and got best friend watchers. They went without me. They went and got best friend watchers.
Well, listen, that's a great opportunity for us to pivot, man. It's great everybody came and showed out. I'm really happy you came, brother. I'm really happy you came.
Absolutely.
This is a Metro Deep event. You should follow Metro Deep on social media platforms. You should follow 5 Points Atlas. You should follow Urban League and also BBI, and that'll give you a great
Synopsis
of what the networking events are, where the business people are at, what's going on, what's moving and shaking, and what's going on. So you should definitely look into all those. And yeah, thanks Metro Deep for putting this on.